Hey gang, this is Chloe,
And this is Zoe.
and welcome to the 10th episode of Swear We Aren't
Lying.
Woo! Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
can't believe it's already the 10th episode. That's pretty killer.
We really out here doing it.
Yeah, like even with all the fumbles and
Mm.
the weeks that we couldn't come together, we
Yeah.
still figured out something, you know?
That's called professionalism.
It really is.
Yeah.
Consistency, we're on it.
Yes,
like
we
you
are.
can't say that we're not dedicated to the craft.
We are dedicated to the craft.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so in this episode, since we kind of ran into another roadblock, we're going to talk about our school days and, life outside of school, how kind of freaky that is because, you grow up knowing only school for such a long time. And going back to school because you don't know what else to do.
And then not going back to school because you don't know what else to do.
That also. So, yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy this episode. I'm sure a lot of you can relate.
Yeah. So, growing up, I'm going to assume we all went to school. If you didn't go to school, that's okay, slay. But I grew up going to private school from pre-K, I want to say pre-K all the way through high school. Regardless of whether that was like private school in person or that was private school homeschooling kind of. I was in private school the whole time without fail. Private Christian school to make it even better and worse. Private Christian school, if you didn't go to private Christian school, it's an entity. The environment can either be super healthy or extremely toxic, and there's truly no in between. Like, you've got the friends whose parents only sent them there because it's good education, and they're not Christian. And then you've got the friends whose parents are on the PTA team, so they're stupid rich, and there's two kinds of PTA parents, where there's the stupid rich family that makes you feel inferior for not driving a Mercedes, and you have the other family, it's like, oh, I had no idea you had money. Because you're just a normal, like, you're not making other people feel like crap. And there's, like, it's a weird walk of, like, the line. And then you got the pastor's kids who get in for free, or get in for, like, cheaper because the dad's a pastor, which was me. I think that's how it worked for me, it was really good education, and then my dad worked at the school, and my mom worked at the church. So my dad worked at the church also, so it made it so that it was a cheaper tuition, and it was just convenient. So there's a lot of kids like that also whose parents were pastors, and so it just made it easy. But yeah, and the way that they set it up for you is that by the time you're out of middle school, you're either going to one of the private Christian schools or the other private Christian schools, and if you don't go to those, you're not rich, and you went to one of the public schools. So, yeah.
Jeez. Okay, see, I'm kind of about to dip into that life because I have never, ever gone to a private school, let alone a private Christian school before. But I'm going to a private Christian university, and I don't know exactly what to expect because despite hearing all these like horror stories, especially from Zoe about like what life is like in that kind of environment, I'm like, yeah, screw it, we ball. Yeah, because I feel like I'm gonna be tamed a little. I don't know, because like I mean, I didn't grow up entirely in public school. I went to public school all throughout elementary. Absolutely hated it. I struggled big time, especially with my social anxiety. It was super bad. Like from kindergarten, I just wanted to be home, and when my home life got harder, because like my dad, he got in an accident like when I was like 8. That just kind of made it worse because like during that time, my mom homeschooled me throughout 2nd grade because it was just easier all around. And I ended up really liking that and preferring that, but I switched back to public school when my dad started to heal, and like we were able to kind of like, I don't know, readjust to that new way of life. So I was put back in public school. Absolutely hated it. I was just shut down. I was not doing well at all. I was not academically there. And I was like slow to understanding certain things. So I ended up getting held back in 3rd grade. I ended up loving that year just because like it was still the same teacher, and it was kind of like a reset. And I already kind of just knew what to expect because I wasn't used to the idea of change quite yet. That didn't come later. That didn't come until later for me, where I absolutely love change now. But yeah, I just struggled big time, and all I wanted to do was be at home and make sure that like everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
I just hated the idea of like something else falling apart and like going wrong in my family, because my family was just struggling. And so that's all I knew from like when I was like 7 years old to like, I don't know, 12, when I finally went back to like homeschooling. Not really homeschooling. My mom switched me to independent study, and that was so much better. Like, even though I was like my teacher at the same time as like being like my own student, I loved the whole idea of that, because I kind of just like got to learn on my own. And I was attached to my mom's hip like all throughout, like since 6th grade on to senior year. I was basically her partner in crime. I just got to learn so much. I feel like I learned way more doing that with my mom than I would have in public school. Especially when COVID happened, because I actually ended up graduating early that January, and then 2 months later, society shut down.
You're like, I'm done.
Yeah, but like everyone that was like going to public school during that time, they were like, they didn't know how to cope.
Right, and there was like been doing that.
Yeah, exactly. There was like no structure for them. There was like no system. Everything was switching to online. And so I had to like actually help my brother kind of like ease into that, because like he was just like, he was a junior. Okay, so it wasn't his senior year, but he was a junior, and then his senior year became like
a weird just hybrid
all throughout, like online. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like a whole year of that or whatever.
It was awful for them. I felt so bad.
Yeah, 2 weeks turned into 2 years and whatever. We all know the story of that because we've all lived that. But yeah, that was basically school life for me, where I went from absolutely hating it to absolutely loving it, because I'm now a scholar.
No, but like I get that. I severely struggle with ADHD. I'm definitely not. I mean, it's complicated because ADHD is such a spectrum. So I'm not medicated. Because it's not that. I'm not that. Like, how do you say this without sounding like like an ableist? I don't want to say it's not that bad, because that sounds.
You're
awful.
like high functioning.
I guess you could say high functioning. Like, I don't have super severe ADHD where like everyone knows it. Like,
where it's like debilitating.
Yeah, I just have it to the point where it was noticeable at a young age. They did some testing and it was diagnosed. And it made school hell for me. I couldn't sit still. And I also zoned out a lot. So for girls, it's more so you're inattentive. Boys tend to have it where they can't sit still. I had a lovely combination of both. So I was doodling everywhere. That was the only time I could pay attention. It was just a lot for me. I also severely struggle with reading. I skip a lot of words. And when I read out loud, it's really awful. And I vividly remember reading in my history class at my middle school in 6th or 7th grade. And 7th grade was already hard. My class had been together since 2nd grade. And then they split us because there was just too many. And we were really sad. It was awful. It kind of sucked. And so I was already uncomfortable. Half my friends weren't in my class. And they split us because of English and math. So the smart kids and the dumb kids was how it made us all feel. Goodness. There was 7A and 7B, and 7B was the dumb kids. Yeah, really fun to hear as a 7th grader that you were stupid. Basically, you were not in the honors math class. So that was really fun. And so I got into history class and I had to read. And I opened my book and it was my turn to read and I knew where we were. But I started reading and skipping words. And some of the kids in my class started like laughing because I thought I was being funny. And like, I get it. Like sometimes it sounds funny and like sometimes like you don't know that someone's not doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
And so like if you're doing it out of like innocent, like I have an innocent heart and not like in malicious intent, it's not that deep. But there was like those kids, like some of those kids just knew what they were doing and they were doing it on purpose.
Gosh.
And it was awful. Like it sucked. And I had a lot of friends who were like y'all, like, Zoe's not trying to not read.
Yeah.
Like, she's struggling. So it was, it was rough. But, I had friends in my class that were helpful and that were, like, beneficial to my, like, life. One of my really good friends, I couldn't braid hair, and so I let her braid my hair in class. And that, like, made my, I don't know, like, class time more, like, fun and less hard to, like, focus. I had a friend that was, like, supportive of me all the time.
Mm.
I had, like, a core 5 people, but my class was really close. So when they would do stuff like that, it was kind of like, y'all, like, that's kind of mean. So, I don't know. It was interesting because it was like a family, and how families make fun of each other and they're kind of mean to each other sometimes. It was like that.
Yeah.
So we fought like siblings, and I don't know.
I can't imagine, like, having a learning disability in a private Christian school.
Yeah.
Because I feel like public school was already brutal enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I only got to experience, like, elementary, but certain things that, like, kids said to me, like, I was definitely ostracized to some point because, like, I was just struggling all the time. I was, like, a nervous wreck. I was known as, like, a crybaby at school, basically. Because all I wanted to do was just, like, be at home and know that, like, my parents were okay or something.
Yeah.
No one knew what was happening at home, and I'm sure, like, as people got older, and if I grew up with them in public school, like, they would be a little more understanding, or they would be more brutal.
Yeah, there's no in between.
There really isn't.
Mm-mm.
But, like, kids wouldn't pick on me to read when they had to, or, like, pick on me to, like, grade their stuff when they had to in public school. And that was hard because, like, you can obviously tell that, like, you're being outed.
Yeah.
And you're just not understanding why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fair. But also you can't blame the kids for what they're thinking and feeling in that moment because, like, they're only 10.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, they should know better to a point, but they're not going to right now.
No.
But, like, that's why teachers need to be on that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, teachers never seem to do their job in that.
No, and I had a really interesting school experience because I wasn't, like, outed. I wasn't a quote unquote loser or, like, geek or nerd. Like, I wasn't, like, the person that you don't talk to.
Mm-hmm.
My friend was. I made friends with somebody that, to this day, I think a lot of my friends were scared of. She was just very different, and in a way where you're like, okay, are you okay? Like, the things that she would do, like, she would fill a water bottle with, like, different plants and leaves and dirt and pen ink from a ballpoint pen, and then shake it up and say, this is my perfume. She was the witch girl. She was, but not, like, in a cool, like, oh, you're a witch? It's not cool. What do you do? No, it was, I'm going to drink this now.
No, it was the girls that thought that they could make perfume by, like, ripping up the grass from the soccer field.
No, literally, and put it in a mini Kirkland bottle of water and leave it in your desk. And then because it's nature, it gets moldy. Yeah. And then it gets, you have a mold bottle in your desk, and that's perfume. And then you wear it, and then you stick your hair in it because you want to smell nice. No, bestie, you smell like mold. Yeah. And that was what she would do. And because she had no friends and I had no friends in, like, elementary, like 3rd to 4th grade, I felt really bad for her. Like, it was like pity or just, like, empathy. I was like, I just feel awful for you.
See, I actually had a lot of friends like that in elementary where I could tell, like, they were just pitying me because they didn't want me to feel like that. And, like, I appreciated that, like, people didn't want to make me feel the other way. But in a way, it made me feel even worse. Yeah. Yeah.
And I tried really hard to not make it seem like I was only her friend because I felt bad.
Yeah.
Like, I actually cared about her. But then as I realized, as I got older, she was, like, kind of verbally and, like, mentally abusive to me. Like, she forced me in every game I was lesser than her.
Yeah.
Without fail. Like, I never was, like, if we were playing house, because we were in 3rd grade, we played house. She was always the mother, and I was always the daughter, or I was always the dog, and she was the owner. It was, like, really weird, and it just made me feel really, like, inferior, always.
Yeah.
She wasn't even, like, cool, so it wasn't like she was the popular girl making me feel inferior. It was like, dude, no one likes you, and I'm a person that's actually nice to you. Don't jeopardize this. And she did. She, like, just banked on me always being there for her.
Yeah.
And she would just pull the card of like, oh, but like I just feel really, I don't like, I'm your only friend. And she would be really mean to me. Like she would just like be awful to me. And then I'd go and tell a supervisor, and they'd be like, well, she would never do that, because she had gone to that school since preschool. And her mom worked there. So they always backed her and never me.
Oh gosh.
So I looked like a jerk, because then she'd go to her parents, and her parents would be like, our daughter would never. Her parents were the parents of like, my kid would never say that. I'm like, girl, you don't go to school with your kid. She's a mean person.
Yeah.
And so in 5th grade, I was like, I'm done. And 5th grade was a very pivotal year for me, because I dropped her as a friend, and everyone was like, you're actually really cool. And because I basically had somebody holding me back, because she was like kind of mean and kind of scary. And so no one knew that I was actually very cool, and I was actually kind of fabulous. And no one knew how superior I actually am.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Leo came out. But no, like no one knew that I'm actually kind of awesome. And so 5th grade, it was a shift.
Yeah.
And everyone was like actually very cool with me, and I had a lot of friends. And so I was kind of like not popular in middle school, but I had like a crap ton of friends. And then it carried from middle school to high school, where I had a crap ton of friends in high school, and I was friends with everyone. And that carried into college, and that carried into like traveling abroad. So it was really like, it was really interesting, because I didn't think I was that cool, because I had somebody that continually would say, you can't sing. She was the reason I didn't sing.
Yeah.
So I had a person that told me, you can't sing, you can't do this. It was a consistent, just like tearing me down.
Yeah.
And so when I had people that were like, you're actually really good at this, you're actually really cool, oh my gosh, I love hanging out with you, it was like a shift. And she like dictated my school year because of how she treated me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
See, like, since I was like a charter school kid, I only went in like once a week for like an hour. Was kind of told like, you know, like, okay, so here's your packet. This is kind of like, these are the assignments that you have to do by this deadline, and you're on your own, basically. There were tutors provided, and those tutors were like super caring. My teacher was super caring, and I love like independent study teachers, actually, because like they just seem to be a little more mindful of like each of their students, because like they know like they're doing it mostly on their own and whatever. But it didn't really give me enough time to like socialize with like other people and go out and make friends. So like the lessons that you would learn during like your school years, I guess I'm like kind of playing catch up on. And I think that's why I've befriended and even dated like certain people that I shouldn't have. It's made me a little more trusting of people, like giving them like a chance when I probably should just listen to other people giving me warnings about them. But I rather just like find out on my own, you know, and like make my own judgments, you know. But I think that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know, late to the party. Because like there's still like certain friends that I am like on the fence about like right now, or like I'm still friends with but probably shouldn't be friends with. There's friends I've had to cut out recently because like I'm learning like, okay, yeah, this isn't gonna work out, you know. And this is actually really bad for me. So I don't know, that's just like the one con to like being a charter school kid, is like you didn't really get that type of like social environment. The social environments I was placed in were like more like mature settings of like talking to actual adults and like learning like how to hold a conversation, look people in the eye, greet people, you know, like start the conversation. And that's something that like my mom forced me to do. And that's what I'm thankful for. But like in certain like settings where you like have to hang out with people your same age, I'm still kind of like awkward. And I didn't really get like a solid friend group until my senior year of high school. And that was like, those were online friends. So like growing up, I mostly had online friends, and they were usually charter school kids like me. So yeah, we shared the same weirdness, you know.
Understanding of each other.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to really experience like what other kids were like my age until a bunch of kids who were applying to the same college as me kind of created this group chat, and then we just bonded for like life within a week. And that's where my core 4 comes in. So I'm very thankful for you guys, Lindsay, Emily, and McKenna. But yeah, and so I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for Zoe because she eventually came in shortly after. Yeah, and so here we are.
I was like, I better not be one of those people you're talking about. You're realizing you should be friends
No,
with.
no,
I was
no.
like, excuse me, Miss Girl.
Are you kidding? Do you think I would start a whole podcast with you?
No, this is where you out me. You're like, actually, you're toxic and you're awful, and I never want to speak to you.
Plot twist, this episode is about how Zoe and I are ending
We're
this.
breaking up. We're not friends anymore. That would be kind of iconic, honestly.
Honestly, that would be quite the devious play.
I would actually be on board with that. I'd be like, you know what?
Applaud me for that. Yeah.
Like, well, I was kind of badass. No, but I get the charter school thing.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of my parents choosing for me, which now I'm grateful. Really, like I genuinely, and I told them, I was like, I do not like you when I actually hate you. I had that, high school kid moment where you hate your parents. I hated my parents for about a year because they were doing what parents do, and what more so actually what parents should do. I'm not gonna say do because some parents don't. But they were looking out for me because I severely struggled with math and I can't think about it, but math mostly. My mom had to reteach me math all throughout middle school, and she realized public school teachers most likely are not going to care that you're struggling. They're going to move on without you. I had the really big privilege that my private school teachers genuinely cared a lot about us. And since it was a smaller private school, I mean, it was big, but it was like big enough that like it felt big, but small enough that you knew that you could go to your teachers and be like, hey, I'm struggling, and that they would actually take time to like help you with that science homework. But yeah, I had to have my teachers help me, and my mom would help me, and they realized, hey, like this is not something that she's really thriving in. We want her to thrive, so let's pull her from like going to public school and let's do independent study. Where my mom could teach me certain subjects. I can go to like, they were kind of like classes, but it was Biola Star. So Biola had a offshoot of homeschool. That was middle school and high schoolers. Yeah. So I went to the high school, which was like, they had different campuses. They were like at churches or whatever that would host them.
Yeah.
So I went to Biola too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I didn't know this, Zoe. What the heck?
That's where I graduated from.
This is where I'm learning another thing about Zoe on the podcast, and I feel embarrassed because I should be her best friend and know everything, but I don't.
There's certain things you say on here that I don't know either. It's fair.
That's true.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I did that. So I was in independent study, but I played softball at a local high school. So everyone's like, I never see you on campus. I'm like, yeah, I don't go here. I do independent study. And everyone's like, what? And finding out that a lot of your classmates are actually quite jealous that you get to go home and do homework at home is kind of crazy. It was a really weird wake-up call that like any of my classmates would give to be like, oh, I'm already done with like honors, like biology. I already finished that. I did it over the summer. Or, yeah, I only have 3 classes this summer because I only 3 classes this semester because I'm literally done. Or whatever it was. They were like, I'm so jealous that you literally get to finish anything you want so quickly and then have nothing to do. Like you get to just chill. And so I think like I didn't realize that because I thrive with people. And I was so lucky like that I had a friend that I already knew from softball that was going to that same school who introduced me to all of her friends. And then because I knew her friends, I knew a lot of the people. So I got in really quickly. And then I went to another school that was also like it was like a school campus solely for like classes for homeschoolers. So it gave you all of those experiences that you want, like dances and whatever.
That's
like
really freaking cool.
Yeah, that's why I had proms. Is I graduated through this group called Hope, and that gave me all of my proms.
Wait, was it Hope Academy?
Maybe is what I graduated. I don't know.
Okay, because I went to Hope Academy all throughout middle school.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I graduated with. That's why I went to prom. That's why I had grad nights and stuff. Like, it gave me the experiences and stuff. Yeah, which was cool. Yeah. So I never felt like I missed out on a lot. I didn't go to parties or anything because it was all a bunch of Christian people that were like, parties no.
Right.
Parties were Bible studies that went awry. That was Bible studies that went awry. If you didn't hear the tone, I made an ugly face because they went awry. And like you can Jesus and you can Bible study, and there's certain things that you just don't do at Bible study, and then we did that because you were children.
Interesting.
Sorry, Mom, I told you I go to Bible study. I was basically doing like kickbacks.
Man.
Yeah.
See, I feel like my academy, because like I ended up switching over to another academy because Hope Academy actually ended up getting shut down because there was like a bankruptcy scandal or something.
Oh, then maybe it was not Hope Academy.
Maybe it was not Hope
Maybe
Academy for you.
They're like related or something.
I don't know.
Adjacent.
Something happened where like the freaking school I was going to got shut down, and so I had to return to this other academy I started out with, but then yeah, whatever. So I went there all throughout high school, and they tried to like set up events or like clubs that like kids could go to, but nothing really like fancied me. I guess like they had karaoke. Yeah, I probably should have gone, but I wasn't into karaoke yet. They had
years to come.
Yeah, right. I had to grow into that. Okay,
Yeah.
it was like a
maturity thing.
They had a 3D animation club, which I thought hard on. I was actually gonna do it.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, but then I was like, 3D modeling, that sounds lame. Thinking back on it now, I'm like, I probably should have freaking done that because it would have gave me more experience into like what I want to go into. But yeah, I don't know. They tried. I got a lot of classes done though. I actually ended up making enough credits or units or whatever you call it at this point in high school. I made up enough where I didn't have to take health.
Period.
I actually ended up making up so many credits that I got to take like more electives than I had like anything else.
Same.
Yeah, because I didn't have like an A through G requirement. It was a charter school.
Right.
Actually, that ended up screwing me over because my counselor told me that I was never ever going to make it into a 4-year. Little did I know that was not true. Okay, actually. So I ended up going to a community college with my dream squashed. So this college I was actually trying to get into, with all these like other high schoolers I ended up making friends with online. I couldn't go. I probably could have if I applied, but I was told a lie that like, no, you'll never make it into a 4-year. So I gave up that dream. I went to a community college. I ended up dropping out after a year, even though they told me I could get into UCLA within 2 years. But then they started adding more to my gen ed because counselors suck. They set up a gen ed plan and then they give you a new counselor and they tell you like, no, that's not even true. What are you talking about? You're going to stay here for 3 years. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be out of here in 2. So I dropped out, went freelancing full time, had a existential crisis while dropping out of college.
That too.
But I took that gap year to explore my options because there were friends talking me back into going back to school. So I went and I toured GCU actually first.
Oh man, that was a time.
That was weird. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with GCU in my opinion. I just think it's way too hyped up. I think they make it out to be better than it actually is. And they didn't even really have what I wanted.
You're like, nah, actually.
Yeah, so I was like, this is grand and all, but I feel like I would actually be running away from all my problems if I moved out to Arizona.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. And then a month later, thank you, Ashton. I really am thankful. I ended up touring Biola University, and that's where I immediately fell in love with the campus. And as soon as I got there, I just knew that like that's where God wanted me to be. And that was before I even like went on a tour or anything of like everything else. But yeah, that's where I ended up applying, and they reviewed all my stuff. They got back to me. I got accepted, and now here I am.
Period.
And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because you went to college, dropped out, went back to college, and now going to college, like 4-year, like
4-year
university.
Yeah.
I straight out of high school was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
I have no desire to major in anything. Everything that I knew I could major in sounded awful. I was like, I'm sorry, a lawyer? You want me to talk people up or down or tell you that he's not guilty, even when I know he's like, I'm sorry, you need to be a doctor? You need to wear scrubs every day. I wore scrubs for cosmetology school. I'm sorry, scrubs every day.
Yeah,
and cut open people's bodies. I would throw up.
Mm-mm.
I'm not even like, gory things don't gross me out. I'd miss something.
Right.
I would cut this thing open rather than the other. It's just, I was like, I can't do it. So I gap yeared. I did music school in Australia 2 times in a row. It was great. It was good for my mental health. It was good for my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And came back home, did some business school, hated it. I should have listened to my uncle. He told me I shouldn't do it. And I said, you know what? I don't care what you say. I don't care that you've done this. I'm going to do it my own way. But yeah, I was like, I don't care what you say. I don't care. Did cosmetology school for a year. And I loved it. And it was one of those things I knew that I should have done it so much sooner.
Yeah.
Because I already knew. I would think I was just really scared.
Yeah.
And now I have no desire to ever step foot in a school again. And that's the difference. That's the difference between Zoe and Chloe.
That is the difference between us, you know? Because here I am trying to go after that BA.
And then go after that, go again somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
And I'm like, absolutely not. And you probably couldn't pay me. So, yeah, I don't like school. Never have. But I also know that school was not designed for people like me. Mm. It was not designed for people with learning disabilities, mental health issues.
Well, see, like, that's the thing right there. Is, like, I think that you would be more on board with, like, pursuing an education to, you know.
Yeah.
If they actually provided the kind of education that you needed. Mm-hmm. Because, okay, here's the thing about charter school, and, like, what's really cool about it is, like, they really do take more time to kind of just develop your education plan.
Yeah.
With me, my freshman year, they actually pinpoint, like, how I learned best. So they tried to learn, like, whether I was a kinetic learner.
Oh, yeah.
Or an audible learner.
Did that, too.
Yeah.
So helpful.
It's so helpful. And, you know, it just gives the teacher more of an idea of, like, how they should approach you. Exactly. And it makes your relationship with them way more intimate. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm so thankful that I actually got, like, one teacher, and I stuck with her all throughout my 4 years of high school. Mm-hmm. Whether, I mean, like, other than, like, you know, having, like, 6 different teachers, you know, each new semester or each new year or whatever. Like, I get that, like, that's how college approaches it. Mm-hmm. But that's different with college, you know? Yeah. And in a way, I feel like charter school really prepared me for that. Yeah. Even though I did have the same teacher. Yeah. You know, just the way that everything was set up. I don't know. I'm pro charter school. I'm obviously an advocate for homeschooling, so
I'm that in between where doing homeschooling and independent study was so helpful for me, and I didn't realize till a few years later, because I realized that I just don't like school, period, no matter if it's homeschool, whether it's independent study, whether it's like whatever. I just don't like school. But when I did it with independent study, I could be watching a YouTube video and be doing homework. And it wasn't because I was actually watching the video. It was my one side of my brain was really, like, in this. And the other side was so focused on homework that I would just get things done like this. Like, I was so proactive because... And it's like when I'm in church. I don't pay attention because I'm looking at the person speaking. I have to be doing something else so that it distracts the part of me that's like, what are we doing? What's going on next? Am I going to go home and eat dinner, or am I going to get lunch after? And it's like the spiral that's going on inside my mind. It calms that down. So I'm like playing like a color matching game, but I'm fully in tune with like what the teacher's saying, what the pastor's saying, or whatever, whoever's speaking to me. I fully am hearing everything you're saying, and I hear it better because I'm distracting that piece of my brain that like wants to like go off about like why the color orange is really ugly or whatever as I'm wearing an orange beanie. Like, you know, like it's weird, and it's the way that my brain works, but it's I didn't know that in private school because I didn't have space to know that. Yeah. If I doodle on my notebook, it was like, Zoe, you're being distracted. I'm like, no, this is so helpful. All of these flowers and eyeballs on the side of my like college roll paper, so helpful. Y'all don't understand. Yeah. I had a kid in my class who had really, really bad ADHD. That also sounds awful. I don't like that term, but I can't think of anything else right now. His ADHD was more severe.
There you go.
There you go. That's the better word. He was medicated for it so that he could focus better. But regardless, he still had a really hard time, which I get that. It's rough.
Yeah.
Because school is designed for people that don't think that way. It's designed for kids that can sit down and like focus and can focus better that way usually. Mm-hmm. He couldn't. He had to be tapping. He had to be moving his legs. So he would pace the classroom. Okay. And my teacher didn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, if that is going to help you and that doesn't distract the rest of the class, he's like, go for it. So he would walk the class and answer every question like perfectly. And it was like, okay, he needs to move. He has to move or has to do something. I had to doodle, and that teacher understood. And I was really lucky that a lot of my middle school teachers understood that, okay, she needs to do something. She kind of has to like doodle. My second grade teacher let me sit backwards in my chair, feet over like the back of the chair, but feet up, like holding the book, and I would be on time. Like, it was interesting. So, I think with just in general, school it's really helpful. It's really good because it tells you, like, it kind of gives you a place to figure out who you are.
Oh, absolutely.
What you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
But also, I think it just needs to be adapted and adaptable for the people that are in the classrooms. Whether that's, like, not being mad when your kid is tapping or getting upset when your kid loses track, because not everybody is wired the way the book is.
No, absolutely. And that's, like, where the education system fails a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, I truly, genuinely don't believe that it's kids hating education. I just think that education has been introduced to them in such a toxic way.
So awful.
Where it doesn't make it appealing anymore.
Red marker?
Yeah.
Angry color.
Right.
Like, even the little things.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not the child who hates education.
No.
It's the fact that you made them hate education.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's awful.
Yeah, and this is coming from someone who absolutely hated school. I loathed it. I would cry. I would, like, pretend to be sick every single day so my mom would not take me. And the worst words that could come out of my mom was, "You're going."
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely dreaded those words instead of her, like, playing into it,
Mm-hmm.
Until finally she just realized, like, they're just not treating my child well. And she figured out a better way for me.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. I am genuinely so grateful for that. And the only reason I'm not scared of going into a private Christian university is because I don't think that a private school is good for a child whatsoever.
It's a really competitive place.
Yeah.
Because depending on, like, some kids are there on scholarship, so they're competing constantly with maybe the other kid. Maybe the other kid they're competing with the kid. Maybe they're competing with, making sure they're on the team, making sure whatever it is. Is it academic scholarship? Is it, like, athletic scholarship? Or is it the fact that, like, you're competing for the popular spot? Because popularity in public school is crazy. But popularity in private school is a different level, because it's not because you're just cool. Yeah. It's because you're wealthy as all get out. It's because your mom hosts the coolest pool parties because your house is massive. And I think when you go to private school and college, at that point, people are no longer finding their identity in the fact that their mommy has money.
Exactly it.
It's like you're a fully developed human, usually.
Yep.
And even if you're not, you're, like, much more mature than a 13-year-old. You're not like, oh, well, like, my dad's picking me up in the Tesla today. I'm like, good for you, Layla. I don't care. Like, I had a kid whose parents owned a car museum. And every car in the car museum was their car.
Oh, wow.
They had a tank. They had a fire truck. They had different Ferraris. Multiple Ferraris. Like, they were extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
And it was like, you knew that. And you're like, oh, you, like, don't even attempt to be that wealthy. Like, it was like, it just made you feel bad.
Right.
And so that's not good for a kid whose family has a Toyota, which is not a bad car, for someone to go, what's a Toyota?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel awful. Because you're like, I don't even think my family's poor. Like, my parents never made me feel like I was poor.
Yeah, no.
They never made me feel like I was concerned for things.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel, like, so inferior when you shouldn't. And no kid, no, like, child should feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so I think private school can be toxic in that way, because
No.
like you're saying, no kid should go through that.
No, because like a child basically just adopts whatever identity their parents have made for themselves, and like as an adult, you barely have it figured out either.
No.
You know, so like the saying is true that like you are going to be the reason as a parent that this person is going to have this worldview for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
You know, like you set that example, and that's why like parenthood is so terrifying, but that can be saved for another episode, you know. But to step into an environment like a private school as like a little 8-year-old, not understanding like a thing, but you're around like all these prestigious kids who are just like, my mommy works at this place and my daddy owns this. Like that's I feel like that's so freaking scary. Like, public school was already scary enough for me as a child, but I can't imagine being thrown into a private school.
It's the new shoes every single time.
Yes.
And you're like, I got my one pair of new school shoes. I don't know how you have 5.
Yeah.
Or I had a girl wear Gucci sneakers to school in middle school. She's like, me and my mom got matching Gucci sneakers. Like, my mom has too small of feet. I can't match shoes with my mother. Oh, I wear men's shoes. I got big ass feet. Like, it was a lot of that. And it was also like my parents were like kind of chill, so like I watched SpongeBob growing up. I had kids who like would be like, you could watch SpongeBob, but like not like in a shocked tone. It was like a judgmental tone, because it was like more conservative Christian.
It was made out to be like such a filthy
heathen. How dare you watch SpongeBob?
Yeah.
You watch Nacho Libre, sinner. Like, it was things like that, and I was like, are you joking me right now? And it was just super interesting because it's so many different walks of life. So, I don't know. But I think you're going to have a good time because you're going to school with adults.
Right.
Who are not going to treat you like a 13-year-old kid whose parents said...
No, I sure hope not, because I'm coming from, like, hodunk nowhere.
But you're also an adult, too.
Yeah, that is true. It's like, I mean, obviously, I got accepted for a reason, so I have every right to be here just like anyone else.
Period.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not even the fact that I'm like really insecure about that. I just think it's going to be very interesting, like...
Culture shock.
Yeah. The type of like... No, literally. Like,
the culture shock.
I'm being thrown into this environment that I've never been in before.
Yeah.
And I've only ever heard like horror stories about. But I kind of feel like it's going to be necessary for who I am right now in this stage of my life. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to give me more structure, more order, because I didn't really get that. I mean, in a way, I did. I developed that for myself, but that's the issue. Like, I developed my own structure. I developed my own schedule with independent study. Whereas, like, going to school, you kind of have, like, this system of, like, I don't know, this is what, like, the real world's gonna be like, you know, in a way. It's kind of just, like, playing house with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I've always kind of been like more carefree with like what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to grow up to be an artist. I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to be a writer, you know, but it's about like going about that wisely and just kind of getting the tools to prep me for that if I actually want to pursue that type of living. So I don't know. And then of course I want to like be more grounded in my faith. And I feel like with like a lot of the worldly experiences, I guess I could say, that I've experienced, this will just be really good for me, especially going into my 20s.
Yeah. I think, like, also just you're hearing horror stories from people who went when people were at peak bullying age, which is middle school and high school. So hopefully, like, the experience is better, and hopefully my stories do not live up to what I've said. Hopefully your experience is not as the same as mine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like I mean, I might go back to school one day for who knows what, but I don't know. I think school's got some work to do before I can go back. I think there needs to be some serious changes made.
Yes.
It's like anything, but no. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. You know, apartments, dorms.
Possibly living together.
You didn't hear that here or from me at all. But no, it's cool. I'm excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun for you to continue doing things you like to do. So
yeah.
Anything you want to plug? We haven't plugged since the first episode.
Oh, I mean, you can follow my Shoot, yeah, I have Twitter now.
She be K-popping on that Twitter.
It's Road Dog Marie.
Slay.
Just like on my Instagram, which is my art account. But if you want to follow more personal stuff, RD Marie. And there's also my production page, Let Pharaoh Know. So, and those are all on Instagram.
I'm a plug because I do like to talk about myself. I do co-host a podcast. If that's not clear, I don't know what is. You can follow me on Zoe Carice with 3 E's on Instagram. I think there's a period on Instagram in between Zoe and Carice. Couldn't tell you. TikTok, Zoe Carice, 3 E's, no period. You should check out our Spotify's.
Yeah.
We'll be plugging that next week for you guys. We're recording that episode next week, but you'll be getting that in about 3 weeks, I want to say, or 2 weeks. But we're going to be talking. Here's a little sneak peek because I feel like you deserve this.
Yes.
You're going to be hearing about just how superior we are when it comes to our music taste.
Oh, yes.
Like, I kid you not, y'all. Slappy music.
Yeah, nobody beats us in this area.
And we're good separately. Like, our music tastes alone, solid. You put those two together, dude, your life will be changed.
I think it's the key to world peace, to be honest.
And solving world hunger.
Curing
cancer,
yeah.
Fixing the foster care system. Like, it's and fixing the school, clearing your skin, school system. Like, I think if you just play our blend playlist on Spotify, solves issues.
Honestly, like, we're gonna be the reason why the education system is no longer whack.
Exactly. I think we're gonna fix these things just because we listen to good artists. So it's actually their fault. It's actually their job.
Yeah,
we just curate it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're really excited for that episode to come out. We've been talking about it for weeks.
Yes.
But yeah, we're really pumped, and we hope you guys have a really awesome rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in.
See y'all on the flip.